My name is Bryce North, and I want to welcome you to my webinar on how to approach investors by email. Now, these tactics we're going to be learning can be applied in different scenarios, such as going to different networking events or even cold outreach on LinkedIn. I'm going to show you 7 ways that you can reach out to investors that will improve your chances of getting a response by email. Now, I know what you're asking yourself, who is this Bryce North guy and why should we listen to him? Well, I've been building companies for over a decade, some that have scaled to over 60 countries, and I've seen firsthand what it takes to attract investors and pitch them properly. In fact, I got so good at this that I've been asked and invited all around the world to teach entrepreneurs, accelerators, incubators, and even local investors how to properly pitch, reach out, and actually raise that investment round here. So I've taken everything I've learned, everything I've seen not work with companies and seen that work great, compiled it into courses and information for you so you can close that investment round that much more quicker. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Investors hear hundreds and hundreds of pitches every single year, and the issue is that companies keep making the same 2 mistakes. They are not building the relationship with the investor early enough, and they're always pitching their product and not their business. So let's start with the latter. Let's talk about why it's really important to start focusing on pitching your business and not just solely focusing on the product. Now, I offer a pitch deck mastery course that goes through everything an investor is looking for and how to give that perfect pitch to them to attract them. And I use this quote a lot throughout this course because it perfectly describes what investors are actually looking for. And it cannot be any truer. The quote's by Mark Headland, and it says, "For an investor, the product is nothing." When you're pitching your company, investors want to hear how you're making money, what validation you have to prove that other people like your idea, and how great your team is. They also want to find out what is really unique about you. So this really could be any patents, any IP, a strong team, or anything that gives you a competitive advantage. What we don't want to do is give a technical description of your product or idea here, or explain how it works in detail, or really go into its features and benefits. We just want to explain the gist of it in just one sentence and then go into talking about those important business metrics that these investors are looking for. Remember, investors invest in businesses and rarely just ideas. They want their investments to be less risky, so they expect you to do some of the legwork yourself and prove that there's a market and people that actually want to buy your product or service. Regardless if the idea is great or not, they want to know does it make money and is there a product market fit? Now, the other mistake that companies make was that they don't build a relationship with the investor first. Most entrepreneurs only start reaching out to potential investors once they realize they need money. Now, imagine people are always emailing you when you want something, while not taking the time to find out the types of projects you're interested in, or really getting to know you at all. Investors invest in people, so you better start building that relationship first. And that is why you need to start as early as even coming up with the idea. You need to start getting on these investors' radar, letting them know what you're working on, and tell them that you'll be looking for a raise in the future and if you can keep in touch and update them along the way. Now, there's a saying out there that can't be any truer. If you ask someone for investment, you'll get advice. If you ask for advice, you will get investment. The goal is to build a relationship with someone by asking for their feedback, making them a mentor, and then getting them involved mentally before going in for the sale. Most of the time, I like to bring up that I'm looking to raise money, and if they really know anyone that would fit this profile, just to make it seem like their idea, if they come up and say, "Hey, I actually could fundraise this company myself, I am interested." Okay, now that we know what investors are looking for when we email them, and that we need to start early and get on their radar, let's jump into the ways we can actually reach them by email. The perfect pitch is a little longer than a commercial, but not anywhere near as long as an infomercial. Your goal is to pique the investor's interest by tapping into each of the key areas they are interested in. Remember when I said that investors hear hundreds and hundreds of pitches? Well, in each case, they're looking for a few key ingredients that make them lean in and ask for a bit more information. So the key ingredients for an email pitch are as follows. Do you have a great subject line? The investor is asking themselves, should I open this? Do you have a personal connection? The investor wants to know, is this person legit? What's your elevator pitch? They want to know what you do. Do you have enough traction and momentum to pique their interest? What's your team like? Can you actually pull it off? Do you have any social proof? Does someone credible vouch for you? And then finally your ask. What do you want and what are you looking for from this investor? So let's dive a bit deeper into each of these sections. A good rule of thumb is to try to make your email pitch under 150 words. Just like you, investors get tons of emails, and also like you, they ignore lots of it. Investors are regular people that are trying to make sense of all the noise in their inbox, just like everyone else. So it helps you if you can make their lives a little bit easier by catching their attention in the right way. So some good examples of great subject lines are as follows, and we're going to be using Netflix as a prime example throughout this webinar. You can say something like friend of Ben Smith from Netflix.com. And this is a personal connection, so you're focused on the personal relationship, which is far more likely to get the attention of someone anonymous. You can go out and say Netflix.com, which is digital DVD rentals, and which is a tagline. It combines who you are with what you do. An investor interested in the online DVD space is far more likely to open this email because they know what it's all about. Or we can go the traction route and say Netflix.com is growing at 200% per month. Be careful with traction because unless your traction is something an investor will understand or will blow them away, it might not help you. Or lastly, we can say Netflix.com, founded by ex-Disney CMO. And we can mention the team here. The investor may have an idea who Netflix is or may not, but they simply want to know who the chief former officer at Disney is. And it helps to have those credentials and people on your team. So let's talk about the personal connection. Every good introduction starts out with a meaningful personal connection. It's the difference between a warm handshake and a cold call. Starting your email pitch with a well thought out personal connection makes all the difference in the world. It's unlikely that you personally know the investor you're reaching out to or even have a personal connection to them. So here are a few ways you can make your intro a bit more personal. You can use their first name, reference a friend, or even cite their background. Here's a good example of a good intro. Mike, I noticed that we're both mutual friends with Bob Smith on LinkedIn. I'm launching a new company called Netflix that provides online DVD rentals and saw that you've invested in Blockbuster. Building the right personal connection is really a matter of common sense. You're likely bombarded with offers from advertisers all the time. You know junk mail when you see it, and you know personal mail when you see it as well. So remember, the more personal it is, the more likely it's going to be read. So let's talk about your elevator pitch because it's the heart and soul of your email, and you shouldn't be afraid to get to it as quickly as possible. In just a few sentences, your elevator pitch should convey 3 distinct points: the problem you solve, the solution you've created, and the market size your potential customers represent. So here's a really good example of an elevator pitch that you can use. Netflix provides over 80 million Americans with online video rentals right to their door without ever paying late fees. Now that we have our elevator pitch, it's time to talk about our traction, which I think is the one part investors look forward to reading the most. Traction is an indication that the business is quickly gaining momentum. Every investor is interested in a business that's taking off. You don't need a huge spike in sales in order to get traction, although sure it helps. So you can show traction through an increase in web traffic, customer demand, or even strategic partnerships and key hires. Here's a good example of traction using Netflix. In the past 3 months, we've added 15,000 new users to our site and are doubling that rate every month. Notice that we didn't cite revenue numbers because we probably don't have them just yet. We're showing that the demand is definitely there, which may imply that revenue is forthcoming. Your traction is all about momentum, wherever you have it the most. Next up, we have our team. You want to focus on the aspects of your team's background that are most relevant to the success of this particular company. The best references from your team indicate they've either done this before successfully or have some specific domain knowledge that's highly relevant to the product or market that you're servicing. So crafting a great team pitch would look something like this. Our team includes the former chief marketing officer from Disney and the head of digital from HBO. Next up, we're going to talk about our social proof. Your social proof is the endorsement from others that you're actually legitimate. Like any type of endorsement, the value of your social proof is proportionate to the credibility of those endorsing you. There are many ways to build social proof around your company, and the importance of social proof is critical to getting real attention from investors. Some examples of social proof are having credible advisors, real customers using your product, having media coverage, or even having existing investors. So let's take a look at a great example of a social proof pitch that you can throw into your email. Our advisors have each personally invested in the company include Sean Self, VP of Hulu, Ben East, former president of Pixar, and Cindy West, VP of Yahoo. Lastly, we have our ask. The ask should contain 3 main points: how much are you raising, the funding stage you are in, and the time you'd like to meet the investor. So a great example of this would be, we're raising $500,000 in a seed round, which we'd like to discuss with you next week if you're available. So here's the final product, all the way from your personal connection to your ask. Notice how it's short and to the point. The investor is more likely going to be reading this on his phone while moving from meeting to meeting and doesn't have a lot of time to get into details. So as you can see here, in less than 150 words, we've established a personal connection, explained how we're solving a big problem, begun to move the market, attracted highly relevant talent and advisors, and shown what we're looking to accomplish. Easy, right? So what you want to do is you want to send the email. And if the angel investor doesn't respond in a week or so, then you want to send another email again saying this: I just want to make sure that this was at the top of your inbox, smiley face. I cannot tell you the number of times this has worked for me and got me a response. If the person doesn't respond, then we can assume they're probably not interested. My experience, though, is that people will answer those emails when they see them because investors want to meet interesting people. They want to meet interesting companies, so why wouldn't they respond? So everyone, that's how you perfectly craft an email to an investor. I hope you got a lot out of this webinar. Before we go though, I want to mention our pitch deck mastery course. And for making it this far, we're giving you a 20% off coupon for the course for the next 3 days. Just use the coupon code PitchPro. Once you've crafted that perfect email and get a response, the hard part really starts. The investors are going to ask you for your pitch or for you to send them a pitch deck. Nothing strikes more anxiety, confusion, and frustration to the hearts of founders than crafting the perfect pitch deck. It's crucial to a successful raise. And if you've made it this far with an investor, then the last thing you want to avoid is scaring them away with a pitch that doesn't cover exactly what they're looking for. So we've broken down the best method with all the metrics an investor is looking for, plus how to design it in a way that grabs their attention. So scroll down to the bottom of this page and click that button to enroll in the Pitch Deck Mastery course. And make sure to use your 20% off coupon so you can get that discount. All right, everyone, that's it for me here, and I want to wish you best of luck in your future fundraise.